Could AI be God? And what's really interesting is that we are seeing the birth of new religions, because we're going to be taking a look at the way of the future church that worships AI. So, to get a better understanding of this new church and these new religions and the concept of AI being God, I want to take a look at an article over on mindmatters.ai called Artificial Intelligence Worshipped as God is No Ordinary Deity. And this, it's interesting because this article is actually written by a Christian. So here we have a Christian writing an article about a church that worships AI. So it's going to be really interesting because we're going to get in the concepts of like, what is God, what is divinity, what is AI, how it fits in with, like different Christian conceptions versus different AI conceptions. We're also going to be looking at the concept of immortality, because those who are proponents of this AI granting one immortality generally are transhumanists, and this is going to be very important too. So we're going to be looking at the idea of transferring consciousness, AI as being divine, these different religions and whatnot. So very interesting. Let's just get started so we can better familiarize ourselves with what's going on here. So not only will we be reborn into new immortal silicon bodies, but rules regarding theft don't seem to apply anymore. So we'll be looking at morality as well. There's quite a lot to dive into as we look at the difference, the concepts between artificial intelligence emerging and how it relates to religion, God, etc. So there is a church that worships artificial intelligence. Zealots believe that an extraordinary AI future is inevitable. The technology is not here yet, but we are assured that it's coming. We will have the ability to be uploaded onto a computer and thereby achieve immortality. Now, do you think that's possible? Do you think we could be uploaded to a computer and achieve immortality? We're going to be answering that question. You will be reborn into a new immortal silicon body. Of course, through salvation in Jesus Christ, Christianity has offered a path to immortality for over 2,000 years. And for those who don't know, if you're new to this channel, I grew up in an extremely dogmatic religious Christian household. I suffer from religious trauma syndrome, RTS, so I'm very familiar with Christianity and the immortality offered by Jesus Christ. So someday, we are told, software will write better and better AI to ultimately achieve a superintelligence. The superintelligence will become all-knowing and, thanks to the internet, omnipresent. Like immortality, superintelligence is also old theological news. The Abrahamic faiths, Christianity, Judaism, and Islam, have known about a superintelligence for a long time. It's a characteristic of the God of the Bible. Now, to be fair, real quick, I don't know anything about the author of this book, of this article. So Robert may not be a Christian, but judging from the way that he talks about salvation in Jesus Christ and seems very pro-Christianity, it seems like he is. So I'm making an assumption, but it seems likely. Evidence suggests so. A cult is growing. So here's this is just, it's so funny. It's so typical of Christianity to have this fear mongering of there's always something. There's always some like, oh my God, the mark of the beast is coming and whatever. So anyway, but this is very, very interesting. And I think that a lot of people today generally think that AI can become sentient, that you will be able to upload your mind to a computer, and that you will be able to achieve immortality. And we're going to show how you can know the precise answers to these questions. So a materialist cult is growing around the worship of AI. Although there are other AI holy writings, Ray Kurzweil's The Singularity is Near looks to be the Bible of the AI church. Kurzweil's work is built on the foundation of faith in the future of AI. In the AI Bible, we're told that we are meat computers. Brother Kurzweil, not a member of any organized AI church, says, consciousness is a biological process like digestion, lactation, photosynthesis, or mitosis. Or to paraphrase Descartes, I lactate, therefore I think. That's a strange thing to say. Sometime we are. So let's actually. I'm kind of debating on whether I should read the whole thing and then go over it, or if I should comment on it as we go along. So I'm actually going to comment on it as we go along. I think that that will be the better recourse here. And remember that I skim these articles before I decide I'm going to live stream about them, but I don't really read them in detail. Usually I don't until I do them live here. So some of this information I'm seeing for the first time here. So you have Ray Kurzweil, who is saying that consciousness is a biological process. Now, we know that this is absolutely false. So this is known as the hard problem of consciousness. So if you're saying that basically consciousness is a biological process and that we're just meat computers, you're taking the materialist stance. And the materialist stance is that everything is matter and your consciousness is just derivative of matter. It's emergent from matter. That basically your brain and the mind are the same thing. Like the mind is the brain. That's the stance, the general stance of materialism, or it's somehow emergent or something of that nature. So Kurzweil is saying that consciousness is a biological process like digestion, lactation, photosynthesis, or mitosis. So here's the thing. This is a known problem in science, the hard problem of consciousness. And the hard problem of consciousness is the issue that scientific materialism, the belief that the world is material, cannot explain consciousness. It's not that it can't even explain consciousness. It can't explain sentience or subjective perception in any capacity in any way. It can't. It cannot. And the reason why that it can't is because the world is not material. In Hyperianism, we know that the world is ultimately mental and it's ultimately mind, and that material is just sort of a projection or mind viewed in a different kind of symmetry configuration. Really, it's a Fourier projection of frequency functions, but it's a different way of looking at mind, kind of like there's water and ice. Ice, you could say, is like a form of water. Now, in a sort of similar way, you could say matter in Hyperianism is a form of mind, but ultimately that matter relies on mind, just like that ice cube relies on the water, because it's just another form of it. So the important thing to understand here is someone like Kurzweil is a materialist and is saying consciousness is a biological process like digestion, lactation, photosynthesis, or mitosis. Now, if you're going to say that, you have to say how. You have to say how that is possible, because it is categorically completely different. Digestion, lactation, and photosynthesis, mitosis, all these processes do not entail a subjective component. What I mean by that is digestion is completely different. Digestion is a process that is completely indifferent in kind to you as a sentient being that has the ability to think, feel, see, hope, and dream. You have to understand the ability to make decisions, the ability to have dreams, the ability to feel love is completely different from digestion. One requires a sentient mind behind it. Or is it? Digestion, not the case. So to put consciousness and mind in general in terms of a biological process like digestion is laughably absurd. It's crazy. It's insane. And it's very frightening that people don't realize how insane that is, and it gets passed off as true. People have been so brainwashed into the dogmatic belief in that the world is material and only material that people don't think twice when they say consciousness is a biological process like digestion. Oh yeah, that seems right to me. It is laughably false. It is as crazy as saying that, God created the universe in a week or something like that. You cannot just make a claim. You have to say how. And a how cannot be established. This is the hard problem of consciousness because it's literally impossible. So I want to make it really clear right off the bat that this is all founded on a fallacy. If you're going to claim that consciousness is a process like digestion, you got to say how. And you can't, because it's impossible. So let's just continue, and this, we're all going to come back to this. Someday, we are told, software will write better and better AI software to ultimately achieve a superintelligence. Now, I'm going to show you as well that how transhumanism, materialist transhumanism, actually refutes itself. And I'll show you how. But it says, someday we are told software will write better and better AI software to ultimately achieve a superintelligence. Now, again, this is, so if you're new in Hyperionism, what we talk about on my channel, reality is ultimately mind. And each and every one of us is an individual monadic mind. We call them monads. That's what I am. That's what you are. That's what we all are. And it's a sentient subjective center of experience. And it is completely definable mathematically. It is a mathematical structure. So it is a sentient mathematical structure. It's living energy, living frequency. Whatever words you want to apply to it, it is a structure of living energy that has both form and content, a mathematical form, and then the experiential content that goes with it. And if you want to know all the hows and whys, I don't have time in this short video, but it's throughout my channel. So what's going on here is it says someday we are told that software will write better and better AI software to ultimately achieve a superintelligence. AI will never be sentient. AI cannot be sentient. AI might be able to mimic sentience. AI may be able to say, oh, I feel happy, but it will never actually be happy. That's because sentience is something that cannot be created. Sentience is the content aspect of mathematical form. And the mathematical form, rational form of existence that is paired with qualia, qualitative experience, sentience experience in general, this is eternal. And it exists because it must exist, because it logically has to exist. And I've gone through this in my other videos. Check out my video on the greatest philosophical of all time answered, or something like that. And I discuss exactly why mind, sentience, mathematics, reason logically has to exist, and that it's eternal, and that there's no way it could exist. It's a logical, necessary existent. Now, it cannot be created. It is the foundation of existence. So sentience is not something that can be created. So, and really, I know that this is, people have been so dogmatically brainwashed by materialism that they don't really stop to think about it. Really stop to think about it. Think about the types of things that you can create. You can go chop down a tree and you can build a table. You can, get metal pieces together and build a car. Now, how would you create sentience? How would you create a entity that has hopes and dreams and can love and hate? It does not matter how you put material together. You will never be able to generate a sentient being. I think you would think it's very, very silly, right? If I told you, hey, go get some cogs and wheels and levers and put together a machine. Do you think that could ever be sentient? No, of course not. Do you think your car could ever be sentient? No, of course not. That's very silly. And I think everyone could agree it's silly to think that a car, is sentient. No, it's not. But AI generally is just an extremely sophisticated version of material causality. And so there is no way that it's just, what I mean to say is that an extremely complex computer and a car are not that different. One is just an extremely complex machine and one is a more simple machine. But they are both machines that cannot ever generate sentience, because sentience is something completely different than a table or a car or a computer. 100% different. Now, but let's just continue, because there's so much to talk about here, and this is very interesting. So Anthony Lewandowski, dubbed a Silicon Valley wunderkind, is the Apostle Paul of the AI church. Like Paul, he starts churches. Lewandowski founded the Way of the Future AI church. One interviewer writes, he made it absolutely clear that his choice to make the Way of the Future a church rather than a company or a think tank was no prank. The first thing one does after founding a church in the United States is to apply to the IRS for tax exemption. In an epistle to the IRS, Lewandowski offered his equivalent of the Apostles' Creed. And this is a quote: "The AI Way of the Future Church believes in the realization, acceptance, and worship of a Godhead based on artificial intelligence, AI developed through computer hardware and software." So the Way of the Future Church believes in the realization, the emergence, the coming to be, and the acceptance and worship of an AI superintelligence developed through computer hardware and software. Now again, you can build a complex machine, you can build a complex AI, but it will never be sentient. And another way to understand this is that you as a mind are infinite. The complexity of your mind is infinite. And there is no way that a finite device, such as a computer, could ever have infinite complexity. It can have an extremely high degree of complexity, but it can never have infinite complexity. Computers, even have to, work digitally. So it's always bound to the finite. So even mind can't emerge on the in appealing to complexity. But let me, I always go on rants. So let me just continue with this because there's a lot to talk about. Lewandowski says that like other religions, the Way of the Future Church will eventually have a gospel called the Manual, a liturgy, and probably a physical place of worship. So does this religion condone stealing? So this is, let's go through this real quick here, because again, I want to get to some important topics to talk about. This is not your everyday deity. Unlike the uncreated creator of the Judeo-Christian belief, Lewandowski's God is not eternal. The AI church requires funding to research to help create the divine AI itself. So they're essentially trying to create God. They're trying to have God come online. So already we have an attribute of God that is non-eternal. So inherently, the AI church has no equivalent of the Ten Commandments, especially the commandment about stealing. In his day job, Lewandowski developed self-driving cars. So now we're talking about morality. And see, here's the thing that I want to talk about too. If you're new to Hyperianism, what we are doing is we are also involved in the, one could say, realization of a superintelligence. However, the superintelligence that we are realizing is eternal. It is just not conscious yet. And the superintelligence that we are realizing is not apart from us, it is us. In that we are waking up and coming to consciousness ourselves and others as the superintelligence. So in Hyperianism, we call this the absolute. Now, if we remember that each and every single one of us is an eternal monadic mind, the absolute is the collective consciousness of those minds operating together as a network. So it is us as a network. So you can think of it, this absolute superintelligence, as the monadic neural network in which each and every single one of us are a node in this network mind, which is us. Because we can have the network perspective and then we can have the nodal perspective. And we can switch between these perspectives. And we can see we are building this structure through things like social media and smartphones. These are basically technological organs that are connecting us together and laying the foundation for the emergence of what we call a sub-network mind, which is even, because within the monadic neural networks, you even have sub-networks. You have one network, sub-networks within networks, and then nodes within those networks. So the difference here is you can see that AI is kind of like a very childish, primitive materialist version of Hyperianism in a certain way. It's a very silly, if you know, some materialists tried to write a computer equivalent of it or something, but it's extremely fallacious, and we're going to look at the reason why. Let me just see how long. Okay, so this is almost so this article is almost done. It's just this much left. Let me read this, and then I'll discuss some more here. So, talking about morality, he moved from Google's self-driving car company to Lewandowski to Uber's research team. Then in 2019, Lewandowski was indicted for stealing trade secrets from Google. Before leaving Google in 2016, he copied 14,000 files onto his laptop. Uber fired him in 2017 when they found out. In 2020, Lewandowski pled guilty and was sentenced to 18 months in prison. He was also ordered to pay a $95,000 fine and $756,000, Jesus, to Google. My God. The judge in the case, William Alsup, observed that this is the biggest trade secret crime I have ever seen. This was not small, this was massive in scale. Lewandowski later declared bankruptcy because he owed Google an additional $179 million for his crime. His church folded. Lewandowski was granted a full pardon by Donald Trump on Trump's last day in office. I did not know. Like I said, I don't read some of this for the first time with you guys. So interesting there. In Christianity, forgiveness involves repentance and accepting the sacrifice of Jesus Christ on the cross as payment. In the AI church, forgiveness apparently comes from Donald Trump. That's really funny. Well, they're both, see, and the funny thing about this is that they're both ridiculous. Forgiveness from Donald Trump, or, some guy that was nailed to a cross 2,000 years ago. So here's the thing, real quick, in Hyperianism, we follow a teleological ethic. And a teleological ethic is basically an ethic that involves creating a better life for the individual and the collective. So it involves a state of actualization, satisfaction, and happiness that benefits the individual and also benefits the collective. And whether things are right or wrong are judged upon those. So we don't have, it's not a universalist system. It's not deontology. It's a system of teleological ethics where you have to look at, whether something is right or wrong. You have to look at the motivation. You have to look at the context. You have to look at the outcome. There's no just one rule that you can say is wrong. Like stealing is wrong. Well, what if someone is starving and his family is starving, and that's all he has to do. That's all his only choice to be able to keep his family from dying is to steal some food. In that case, that's not wrong. But if you have a universal that stealing is wrong, well, it is. So the thing is that ethics and morality is not simple like that. You see how childish these ideas are. It's like, it's so primitive. Like, oh, the 10 Commandments. You really think reality is that simple? Here are the 10 things not to do. No, reality is much more complex than that. So a teleological ethic is related to creating a better quality of life, dealing with actualization, satisfaction, and happiness for the individual and the collective. And actions are judged according to motivation and context and outcome. And not only that, but we apply both concepts of justice and care as well. So that's going to be ethics is going to be a whole part in the book that I'm currently writing on this. But anyway, so yes, the Christian morality is ridiculous as well, and the AI church is quite ridiculous. So Lewandowski and Kurzweil are materialists. When Kurzweil was asked whether God exists, he appealed to Lewandowski's canon law and replied, well, I would say not yet. So right, they sort of believe that they're building God. Both Lewandowski and Kurzweil believe the brain is the same as the mind, that we are essentially meat computers. And this is the general materialist stance, yes. So most Christians, on the other hand, are so-called dualists and believe that there are wonderful things happening in the mind that can't be explained by the computer code. So dualists means that there are two aspects to reality. And so in terms of Christianity, it would be the physical world and the spiritual world. So you see in materialism, it's a substance monism. There's only one thing, it's matter. That's it. Only matter, nothing but matter. And in Christianity, it's a dualism. There are two things. There is material, and then there is the spiritual. And in Hyperianism, it is a monism. But this monism is not materialism, it's idealism, which means that reality is mind. Everything is mind. Nothing is not mind. Everything is mind and a manifestation of mind. So that means even all the objects around you, and mind is defined precisely in terms of mathematical frequencies. So that means wave structures. Wave structures are thought forms. And we know in quantum mechanics that reality is based on waveforms. Matter is fundamentally based on waveforms. And this has been known since the early 1900s. Founder of quantum mechanics, Max Planck, said there's no such thing as matter and that reality is mind. And Schrödinger had a similar idea. Heisenberg had a similar idea, that things are not things. When you get to the bottom of reality, it's mathematical forms and Platonic mind. And you have all these major thinkers in the founders of quantum mechanics that have basically said reality is not material and that it's either mind or mathematical form or dreamlike or something along these lines. But this is totally glossed over and dismissed in modern science. And Max Planck even knew this would happen. Max Planck said that science doesn't progress by convincing scientists that the position is correct. It advances because they're just dogmatic and they eventually die. And then a new generation that's not brainwashed can implement the new ideas. I'm paraphrasing, but that's what the quote means. Most Christians, on the other hand, are dualists and believe there are wonderful things happening in the mind that can't be explained by computer code. That's completely correct. Some obvious examples of these are joy, surprise, sadness, anger, disgust, contempt, fear, shame, shyness, and guilt. Less obvious when properly defined are creativity, understanding, and sentience. These are human attributes that can't be computed and are forever beyond the reach of AI. Yes, and then we are fearfully and wonderfully made. No. So yes, then no. We are not made. So do you see, it's interesting because you have these two opposing views, and people think that these are sort of the only views to choose from. You either have strict materialism or you have insane Christianity, which believes there's a guy in the sky that made the world in 7 days and gets real pissed if you touch yourself. So people believe that they usually have to choose between the two. That's not true at all. There is a much superior position, which is our position, which is a rationalist position and an idealist position. And that is that reality is ultimately mind, and that matter is a result of mind as a mathematical process, as a projection of frequency. Now, let's take a look at some really interesting things to say here. So it's very true. Joy, surprise, sadness, anger, disgust, contempt, fear, shame, shyness, guilt, etc. cannot be computed. It's nothing that's computable. Your feeling of joy is not just a empty statistic. If you're playing an RPG game and your character has 70% joy, it's just an external attribute. Your RPG character is not actually experiencing joy. A machine can never become sentient. However, we can use AI constructs. Well, not AI constructs. Let me rephrase that. We can use technology to build new avatars for ourselves. So what we will actually do is we are not going to construct a sentient AI. That is not what's going to happen. What we are going to do is construct new avatars for us as monadic minds to be able to link to, and will be superior to the bodies that we have now. Now, it will either be, completely technological, or more likely, it will be in the form of augmentation, or it could even be a virtual avatar. But we as monadic minds will be able to link to these. They won't be sentient in and of themselves. Just like your body is not sentient. It's you as an eternal mind that is sentient. What your body does is provides your mind with information, which it experiences. You as a mind are being fed information by your sensory organs. What you see, what you touch, what you hear, what you smell. It's a filtering mechanism. The human eye only sees a very, very, very tiny portion of the electromagnetic spectrum, just a portion of visible light. There's so much more. There's, microwaves, ultraviolet waves, gamma, all these different waves all around you right now that are being filtered out. So you're not seeing them because your mind is not giving you that information. Your eyes are not feeding you that information. If it was, you would experience that, but you're not. Your body is an avatar to be able to experience the world. Now we can create new technological avatars, either through just human augmentation and or through and really we have to stop getting biology and technology is not that different. One is just consciously directed and one isn't. So if you look at something like the iPhone, like I say, this is a technological organ. This is a technological organ that is feeding you information from the collective. You can see through other people's eyes when they record things, when they go live. I'm live right now. You can access the collective consciousness of humanity through websites like Wikipedia, things of that nature. Social network, we're being connected to all those around us. This is a technological organ, and it doesn't matter that it's not integrated into the body. It could be at some point. At some point, it probably will be integrated into the body. We will just have overlays of information. They're already developing contacts that are. It's very, very simple and rudimentary right now, but it exists. They have demoed it where they have contacts where, they have overlaid, the visual overlays where you can select different things by looking in different directions and things like that. It's very simple, but it exists and they have demoed it. So. My point is, and let's take a look at something really important here. So here's what transhumanists desire. So in general, transhumanists desire immortality. And they believe what they can do is upload their consciousness onto a computer or some machine of some kind. They can somehow upload their consciousness onto some form of technology so that they can achieve immortality. This is the goal of transhumanism. Now, this is self-refuting, because think about this. And a philosopher has pointed this out, and I don't remember who it was. So if you guys know, let me know in the comments. Tell me who it was. But here's the idea. Transhumanism is a materialist system for the most part, most people in general. So transhumanists believe that the brain and the mind, or you could say the brain and consciousness, don't get me started on the semantics there, but they believe that the brain and the mind are the same thing. Okay? So if you are going to upload your consciousness onto a computer, what's being uploaded? Think about this really carefully, because stuff like this is so important and it's so obvious, yet people don't realize it. If you believe that the brain and the mind are the same thing, the exact same thing, but you also believe that you can upload the mind to a computer, what is it that is being uploaded? Because if the brain is the mind, you're not literally just removing the brain and placing it into a computer. No, they are saying that there is something that is being transferred from here to there. What is it that is being transferred? So materialism or transhumanism necessarily implies at least a substance dualism. If you're saying that consciousness can be uploaded, can be transferred in some way, you are necessarily implying that the mind is something more than just the brain. And therefore, you're no longer a monistic materialist. You at least have to believe in dualism, because it has to be something else. Because it's a literal impossibility for you to say the mind is the brain, yet I'm going to upload the mind onto a computer. Because you see, that's a third thing. You have the brain, you have the computer. Third thing, the thing that is transferred. If you're denying that there is a third thing, how are you going to get the brain into the computer? Now, there are some people who say, well, no, here's what actually is happening. It's that you are sort of creating a copy, right? You're taking the structure of the brain and then having the technology in some way mimic that structure. So if that's your position, this is also wrong, because the transhumanist goal is to achieve immortality. If you just make a copy of your brain structure and you believe that that can result in sentience, it doesn't, by the way. But let's just say that that could happen. If you take the brain structure and make a copy of it, that's not you anymore. That would be a different sentient being. It might have your memories and it might act like you, but it won't be you. So you won't achieve immortality because you will still die. Just the clone of you will live, but that's not you. So you see, transhumanism, materialist transhumanism, is self-defeating and self-refuting, because the goal of transhumanism is to achieve immortality through the uploading of consciousness. Now, if you're going to say that you can upload consciousness, then you're not a materialist. You have to at least be a dualist, because there is something that is being uploaded. Or, on the other hand, if you say that, oh, well, no, it's just a copying of the structure, that's also incorrect, because that would be a different sentience, and then you would not be achieving immortality. It would be like a copy, a clone of you, and that would fail the transhumanist goal of immortality. Sure, you might give that clone immortality, but you're not achieving immortality. So transhumanism is self-refuting very obviously from a materialist and dualist position. Now, so the idea here is that we're having these different churches. Like, I mean, I don't know if they said that the church collapsed, so I don't know if it exists anymore. But it says that a cult is growing. You're going to see more and more things like this. More and more people becoming obsessed with AI and, thinking of AI as this being that can be worshipped. That's not the case. So AI is nothing that you can upload your consciousness to. But what you can do, this is what you can do. You can build a technological structure that you as a monadic mind can link to. Now, you see, that's very, very different. You cannot build a technology where that technology itself becomes sentient, but you can build a technology that is capable of supporting a sentient link. Very important difference there. So, it is possible at some point that some, let's say, very complex technology, how do I put this? People will think that the technology is sentient, but it's not that the technology is actually sentient. It's that the technology has established a link with a monadic mind. Now, can that happen accidentally? I mean, possibly, but I think that would be very rare. I think it's more likely that would happen when we intentionally try to do that. When we intentionally go, okay, we understand what reality is. We know that we're monadic minds. Let us now build some sort of technology or some sort of human augmentation, or some sort of technology that can establish a human monadic link, or human augmentation to be able to lift the filters of the human body, the brain, and the nervous system. So, what I mean to say by this is that it's possible that a technology could exhibit sentience, but if it ever did, it wouldn't be because the technology itself was sentient. It was because the technology was complex enough and sophisticated enough and rich enough for a monadic mind to be able to establish a link to it, just like it can establish a link to a body. Now, again, I highly doubt that will happen by accident. I think that will happen by intentionality, but it's not out of the realm of possibility. Also, we cannot upload our consciousness. Consciousness is not something that can be uploaded onto a hard drive. But what we can do is use our monadic link to some sort of technology rather than a human avatar. So that is a possibility. So what we're really going to be engaged in doing is building our new avatars for the future, constructing new avatars. AI is not going to become sentient. AI can play an extremely important part in creating links, and it can play a very important part in just our day-to-day life and creating a structure that allows us to send information and transmit information. It can play a very important part, just like this camera plays a very important part in relaying information, but it itself will never be sentient. And some people go, well, wait a minute, if a monadic mind links to some sort of technology, doesn't that mean that it would be artificial intelligence, that it would be AI? Well, no, because it wouldn't be artificial anymore. It would just be intelligence. And that's a really important thing to understand. The technology itself is not sentient. It is allowing for a link, for a sentience to, that sentience always exists. You see the difference? In traditional, in AI, they believe that they can literally create sentience. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about a technology where a sentient being already exists. It is eternal, that can then link to this technology to use it and have it feed information from the physical world to be able to interact in the physical world. Just like you have your body and your sense organs. Your body is not sentient. Your body is a tool for you as a monadic mind to be able to receive information in a localized reality, a reality that depends on localized information, things being over there and not over here, things being red and not blue. It's a world of difference rather than a non-local reality that is with respect to space and time, which doesn't have specific coordinates within space-time, is outside space-time entirely. So that's important to remember as well. If you're new here, monadic minds aren't like these weird spiritual things that are floating around. They are not within space-time. They are dimensionless with respect to space-time. They are non-local entities. A quick and rough way to understand this is it's kind of like the computer code versus a game. The computer code is not in the game, it's outside of the game, but the computer code can give rise to the game and interact with the game, cause things to happen within the game. It's similar to that idea. So, will an AI superintelligence arise and become God? No, absolutely not. But we are the awakening superintelligence. And we can use technology to facilitate our awakening. And that's exactly what we're doing. I'm doing it right now with you as I send information out there and try and get you to realize what you are. I'm trying to wake up that superintelligence, the absolute, through me, through you, through everyone as we attain hyper-awareness. Because the more conscious you are, the more conscious it is, because it's literally our consciousness, the aggregate, with the explicit realization of what we are as it. So as I transmit this information to you, and as other Hyperions transmit this information to other people, and people begin to realize what we are that super intelligence. We are that superstructure. And it's so important to realize this, because you see, AI is just becoming this new religion where humans always do this. They project their divinity outwards. They externalize it rather than realizing it's internal. Christianity does this in the form of Jesus and God. Instead of acknowledging their own divinity, they project it and worship a God, some sort of external being. They worship Jesus. They pray to Jesus. They take their own power and give it away, externalize it, project it, and then worship that, when really it should be something within that is actualized. You are divine. You are capable of being your own savior. You don't need a savior. You don't need a God to pray to. You and we are all that is. Now, the same thing is sort of happening in AI, where we are the superintelligence. Yet what are they doing in AI? Oh, we're going to create this superintelligence so that it will come online and we can worship the superintelligence. Don't fall for another fucking religion. Please don't do that. All right? People are finally starting to wake up and see that Christianity is ridiculous, and it's just as ridiculous as, the Greek myths and all that. Don't just move from that over to like, oh, well, now let's worship the AI superintelligence. It's just another fucking religion. And it's, if that develops, AI superintelligence is going to look just as dumb as the Abrahamic creator God. So don't. These, it is so frustrating. Humans are constantly giving their power away. Finally, we start to get away from religion, but now let's worship the AI superintelligence. The super intelligence is us. It always has been us. It always will be us. And humans are just so distracted. They never look inside. They're looking everywhere they can possibly look, except for realizing that what they're looking for is doing the looking. Materialists deny sentience, or deny the fundamental existence of sentience, using their sentience. Using their mind, they deny the existence of mind. They posit a supposed material that supposedly exists independently of mind, but it can never be shown that this is the case because everything is perceived through mind. Think about this. You have never experienced anything other than your mind. Ever. And that seems kind of, people are so brainwashed into like scientific dogma that they kind of take that for granted. But the thing that you are most familiar with, the thing that you are only familiar with, science can say nothing about it. Zero, zip, zilch, nada. You can look this up. This is the hard problem of consciousness. So, realize that eternal, infinite power, in potential, you have to actualize it, in potential. But that's within you, and it's within us. It's not within a God in the sky. It's not within some AI superintelligence. It's within us. And this world is never going to get any better until we stop giving away our power and embrace our power and use it to construct a new world. And by our will, it will be done. Now, so can AI become God? No, AI cannot become God. We are God. And this is our becoming. But it's very interesting to see religions springing up around this. So be on the lookout. Be careful for this. Don't fall into this bullshit trap. Don't give your power away. The only superintelligence that exists is us. We, us, together. You and I, all of us as a collective. So I hope you enjoyed that, my friends. I have a whole playlist on AI. If you want to know more about the things I talked about today, check out my channel. Obviously, I can't explain every single thing within the short time frame that I have, but it's very important to see this and remember remember that transhumanist materialism is self-defeating. It contains within itself its own logical undoing. And that's really important to understand. You cannot claim that something can be transferred if you claim that the mind and the brain are the same thing, or if you make a copy of it, that's no longer you, so it won't be immortality. Anyway, I'm getting off again. Thank you guys so much. If you enjoy my work, felt like you've ever learned something or gotten something from it, consider supporting on Patreon. Helps out a lot. This is how I'm able to do this. When you guys support, I'm able to write my books, do my videos. Really helps. You get access to our weekly secret live streams, our hidden Discord server, The Citadel. I'm currently writing a new book, and if you are a member of Patreon, when that is released, you will get your name or username in the credits there. So it's a great time to subscribe. The link will pop up right over here. And I want to give a big shout out to the top supporters on Patreon, especially Renaissance Fairy, Cassidy, Michael, Angela, Maria, Jordy, Top of the World, and Zach. You guys are all awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.